Navy SEALs would tell you that if you want to eat an elephant, you got to eat it one bite at a time, and Sarah and I are going to do that together.
You know, you've been one of the president's strongest supporters for a while now. Yeah. But does he know what you said about him back in 2015 when you said he was a hack politician?
God, he brings it up every 15 seconds, okay? One of the biggest mistakes that I made, because I was an unexperienced person in the world of politics. So, Mr. President, if you're listening, I personally apologize for the 50th time for saying that. Listen, I'm a super optimistic guy. You know, I'm too short to see the glass anything other than half full. I think that the president's going to have a phenomenal relationship with the press. We'll get there together.
All right, let's talk about it, because we have the counselor to the president, President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, joining us on the couch this morning. Nice to see you.
My pleasure.
Now, on Friday, right before this announcement came out, we were talking to you about it. You were praising Anthony Scaramucci, who, if he were part of that team, would be a huge asset. I think we saw on Friday what an asset he is going to become. You also said that Sean Spicer, you thought, would remain in the White House and would continue to work there, and then he resigned.
Well, that's Sean's choice, and of course the president made very clear he wanted Sean to stay, but Sean decided, and has told Fox News' Sean Hannity, that he felt it was best to give them a fresh start, a clean slate, and I think he'll do very well for himself. He'll go make a lot of money. He's a patriot. He has a great communications mind, Spicer. He's able to look at a complex issue and figure out how to deploy people for regional media, national media, social media. For a president who is incredibly media savvy and a communications expert in his own right. You know, media and communications is important to every president, but to this president, it's really essential because he himself has such a great eye for that, and he knows the only way to connect directly with the American people and cut through all the noise is to help all of us out there helping to break the news and connect them with the information they need to have. I mean, there's such we know there's biased coverage, but there's such incomplete coverage of all the things he's done. The average American needs to know what's in place for veterans now, all these great improvements for them, the Accountability Act, the whistleblower protection, the 24/7 White House hotline, the fact that for a first time in decades, a veteran is seen as one single patient at the DOD and the VA, so it cuts out the bottleneck, the red tape, and allows that veteran to get the care he or she deserves.
How do you do that with a press room full of liberal? I mean, frankly, they're all liberals, and they're all accosting this president. How do you get them to focus on things they refuse to want to focus on?
There are all types of motivators: shame, guilt, information, elixir, and there are many different ways to do that. You can go at them or you can go around them. But I think what they've been doing is these reporters are no longer chasing a story so much as chasing the president, and that's starting to backfire because I'm a person at the White House who's deployed probably about once a week, every 10 days or so, out into America, and I am constantly meeting people, and these are not just, you know, Republicans or conservatives, meeting people saying, I want him to succeed. I love this country. This is our time. He's doing great things. He's keeping his promise. But he's there to drain the swamp, and the swamp doesn't always like it. And the swamp isn't just Congress, isn't just lobbyists. It's everybody who's had a hand in the inertia and the deadlock that is Washington.
Do you think the media will change? I mean, you saw that clip when we brought you in with Anthony Scaramucci, and just sort of the different way that he was able to handle some of the tough questions that came at him. He's very transparent. He comes across very calm. You know, he tells them exactly what's going on, so there's nothing to hide. And he's hoping that maybe the media can respond in a different way. As you said, a new chapter for the communications team. Do you think the media will change at all?
They are certainly curious about the new changes, and I think that the greatest irony is they've been covering all these palace intrigue stories literally since the day we got there. Yeah. Whose head is going to roll? Who's in the doghouse? Who's being fired? Who's being replaced? And nobody has been. In other words, we had 3 CNN reporters fired, but nobody from the inner circle. The president is additive when it comes to that. He wants more people around him. What I think will change is there'll be maybe a fresh start and a wider berth to at least see. But Anthony Scaramucci is something else, as is Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as is, you know, frankly, people around the president who I think thrive and succeed the best. Tough but humble. You know, his story, his American dream story. He's a self-made person. Yes, he's a street fighter who can also handle a C-suite meeting, but he's also very humble and self-made. He's a Trump guy.
We kept hearing this on Friday, that this is Trump's guy, right? And there were other members who know the Trump administration well were saying now Trump gets his guy in that role. And it's interesting to see how many more people could be placed in those roles. You think the Trump administration, they come in January, they get to put all of their own people people in there, right? But he's being pulled by the swamp in different directions from Republicans who've
And we're seeing
established
Corey
guys.
Lewandowski
So where do we,
and David Bossie going to the Hill. I mean, and are we seeing a changing of the guard at all?
so is he going to get more of his people in there?
Well, he is surrounded by people inside and outside who continue to give him great advice. And I think the people who do best in the Trump orbit, whether they are officially in the White House or on the outside helping us in different ways, are the people who recognize he is the greatest communicator. He is his best messenger. We're there to support him. He leads. I mean, this man beat every odd. Vanquished 16 opponents, and then Hillary Clinton. And we should not lose sight of how that happened. That happened because he trusts his own instincts. He's unflappable. And when people hit him, he hits back twice as hard. And he's, as he always says, he's a counterpuncher. I'm much the same way. I don't draw first blood, but you draw blood on us, you're not going to win that debate. And he continues to be that way as president. But the focus he has on these issues at hand, his love for the military and the working man, and keeping these manufacturing jobs in this country. Look at him yesterday at the USS Gerald Ford, where he's just so proud to launch this new vessel, and so proud of the thousands of patriots who will serve there, and they're there for him as well. It's indicative, it's symptomatic of how he became the president and how he continues to flourish outside of the noise.
I'd love your advice for Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because you're out there. You said you're tough. You've been through a lot, though. I mean, you have been criticized many times by the mainstream media. Now Sarah Huckabee Sanders is stepping in as this new press secretary. It's an incredibly tough job to have. You are that middle person between President Trump and the media. I mean, you go on social media and you read some of these attacks on her, many of them personal, cruel, awful attacks about her looks, about her as a person. What advice do you have for the mainstream media handling her, and advice for her on how she moves forward?
Well, I love Sarah and respect her enormously, and I can't be happier that she's agreed to take on this job. I'm pretty sure she's the first mother to ever be our nation's press secretary, and I got a little goosebump just because I know what that entails. She's got these 3 young children. It gives her a wonderful perspective, but it also gives you such a balance. You realize what's really important in this world. She can go home at night and in the morning and see there's a husband and 3 children who love her no matter what, and it's very grounding. She doesn't have to worry about what the jackals and hyenas say. Also, let's have a conversation, Abby, here and continuing, about the irony of, quote, modern feminism.
Right.
They look right past sexist comments said about conservative women, definitely pro-life women like Sarah and me. The minute they find out we're pro-life, we're not.
They say you just hate women.
Well, what they are, but look, I pray for them. They'll be in my prayers today and every day, because I can't imagine what could make somebody so miserable that you have to attack another woman's looks or clothing or way. You want to disagree on policy? Let's have at it. That's what this country is founded on. But we really should have a larger, cleansing conversation, frankly, about an honest conversation about how people are treated. But Sarah will do very well because she knows she's there to serve the country, and she tries very hard. She's an incredibly hard worker who was raised in politics. She's tough, she's smart, but she's also humble, and she's also very accessible. And I think all of that will serve her well, and I couldn't be more proud.
Well, speaking of double standards, the president was tweeting yesterday morning and tweeted about the fact that, all this focus on the investigation and special counsels, why aren't we looking at Hillary Clinton or Comey's crimes, the 33,000 emails and things like that? Is there going to be a renewed focus on that, maybe looking at what Hillary did, but also going after the special counsel and this witch hunt, as the president calls it, against him?
The president has always said this is the Russia's is nonsense. It's a witch hunt. It's a hoax. It's a conclusion in search of evidence, frankly. I mean, honestly, what are we doing here? What is this about? The taxpayer money, the diversion of resources and time. He's talking about America, they're talking about Russia. And the president is making clear he has no business dealings in Russia. I was the campaign manager. I knew the campaign very well. We were talking to people in Macomb County, Michigan, not Moscow. And this president, I was on the other side. I had worked for a super PAC in support of Ted Cruz for a while. There was no way to vanquish Donald Trump. He was the smartest, most unflappable. And we weren't like, gee, should we call Russia to try to get rid of him? It's just such complete nonsense. See, it makes you laugh just to think about it with a straight face. And let me just say, the Miss Universe pageant happened to go to Russia 9 years ago. He sold his house to a Russian 10 years ago. What was everybody so prescient that they're like, I think this man will run for president? I mean, 10 minutes before he won the darn thing, thing people were saying, he will never be the president. So 10 years earlier, someone in Russia someone who is Russian was supposed to realize, I think he one day will be president, I'll have access. It's nonsense. It's a waste of taxpayer time and money. And may I say, you've got Adam Schiff and Mark Warner, the two Democrats in charge of these, partly in charge of the investigations. They spend more time on TV than collecting the evidence anyway. So what is this truly about?
Let's have you stick around. You mind? You want to stick around?
I would love to.
We're going to go to commercial break. We'll come back. We're going to talk more with Kellyanne. President Trump sending strong warnings.